Hi guys, long time no see. I'm Haze. I'm a speed painter and artist from Malaysia, and today we're going to talk about eye drawing. There's tons and tons of eye drawing tutorials in YouTube, and why is mine different? Because today I'm going to show you how to get from here to here. And what we're going to do today is have a progression of drawings before we can get to our final realistic eye drawing. But before we get started, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and my Instagram is @Haze. Like and comment if you have any questions. So let's get started. First of all, let's talk about the tools that you will need. You will need graphite pencils of varying darkness. I usually use like from a B to a 5B, but it's up to you if you want to use mechanical pencils. I also have a blender stump here with me today and also a brush. Also, I have a pen eraser, which is really useful for picking out highlights, and you should have one too. Now that we have our tools are all defined, now let's move on to our first drawing. Okay, now if you're an amateur or beginner, your drawing might look like this. If your drawing looks like this, don't worry because you get to improve your drawing today. Okay, first of all, when we have this drawing, what are the things that we can do better? The shape of the eye needs to be improved on. That's for sure, and also it needs to be more accurate. The iris and the pupil has to be perfect circles, guys. The pupil has to be dead center when it comes to positioning it in the iris. Please pay more attention to the direction of the lashes and the eyebrow hairs. You are actually supposed to draw the hairs one by one, and if there's 120 hairs, you should draw 120 lines. So you should take your time and really be patient and move through them slowly if you want to improve your drawing. If you apply what I've just said, your drawing will now look like this. Okay, now we can see this drawing is a lot better. For one, the sketch is a lot more accurate, but there is also still some things that we can work on. And the first thing that we have to talk about is the density of hair. The hair really needs to look like it is really dense, especially the eyebrows. We want to give it more lashes and more hairs, even if the photo does not have that much, because we want to have a contrast and we want our drawing to look pretty, right? Next, we're going to talk about the direction of the hairs and the lashes. So right now, this drawing looks a bit careless. Most likely, when it comes to drawing the hairs, we are a little bit too quick and too fast in drawing the hair, so it looks like it's careless, and then the hair looks like the same thickness from the beginning to the end, which is not good because we want it to taper down at the end. We need to take our time and be patient and really draw the hair in slowly to get the direction and the thickness correct. Okay, next we're going to talk about the shading itself and the line drawing. If you can see here, the line drawing is exactly the same weight. It's all the same shade of grey. There's nothing that's darker, there's nothing that's lighter. And then when it comes to the shading, only the pupil is shaded. Even so, it's not perfectly shaded, like there's some whites going on. Finally, let's look at the lower eyelid, because the lower eyelid is actually right above the lash line. It's a different texture, it's a lot more reflective. The lash line actually sits on this lower eyelid. So now, if we address all these issues, we should be able to progress to our next drawing. And our next drawing, we can see here there's a huge improvement. Let's look at what we are doing correctly first. First of all, the drawing is pretty accurate, and our lower eyelid is also well defined. The lash line is sitting on there, and we have an eye bag shaded. The lids are also shaded, and the hair is dense, so we can definitely see some contrast going on. There are some light shading and there's some darker lines and darker shading. So all in all, this is a pretty effective drawing. But let's look at what we can improve from now. First of all, the sclera itself, it needs to be shaded. Even though it's white, it's not actually white because it's actually a white sphere, and it still should have some shading going on to make sure it looks like a sphere, okay? And the tear ducts needs to be shaded as well. The skin also needs to be shaded because we need to differentiate the material and texture of the skin versus the sclera and the iris. So it's really important that we shade the skin properly. Also, this still looks like a drawing and not a realistic rendering of an eye. What we can try to improve on is the way we shade, because if we shade in crosshatch, it will seem like there's a lot of whites in between the lines. So what we can do, if we can use a blender stump or a brush to shade, it will really improve our drawing from this stage onwards. And now finally we can talk about the final drawing. Okay, let's talk about how we're going to achieve the soft blended look for this drawing. I start off with like a few shades of graphite shaded out in patches on the page, and I use the brush to pick up the graphite and I use that to apply it onto the drawing to shade the eye. So this can give you a really soft shaded look, and they're blended, there's no whites in between, so it's really soft, it's really subtle, and it's really defined, so which is good. So we're gonna use that as a base and slowly shade up and get darker and darker. Once we have defined the modeling of the skin to make it look like an eye socket, we're gonna move along to the creases of the eye. I'm gonna apply more pressure and make it darker, and then using the blender stump, I'm just gonna push and pull the graphite around. I'm also gonna make sure that my eyebrows are shaded in before I draw in the lines. This will really remove all the whites between the lines, and you will make the drawing just pop, which is good, and it will make it look less like a drawing as well. It will make it look more like a rendering or a painting even. For the sclera, I'm taking my time to really make it look like a sphere. And for the iris, you want to focus more on making it look like a glass surface, because it's underneath this glass surface where there is a crater happening, right? And in the middle of the crater, there's this infinite drop that leads to the pupil. If we can render that correctly together with the highlights, we will have a very successful rendering of the iris already, and it will look really realistic. So we need to spend a lot of time for this part. So once you are done with the iris and the pupil, I want you to focus a lot more on the shading for the tear ducts. I'm going to spend a lot of time just slowly rendering out every single hair and lashes, making sure that the ends of the hair are tapered down. And once you're done, you can start putting down your highlights using the eraser pen. If you have a pen like this, it's really great to put down highlights for details. I like to do this at the end of the session. You don't have to, but I like to because it really gives me satisfaction to see all the highlights pop. I would do them at around the tear ducts, and I'll give some highlights on the lower eyelid and also some highlights on the upper eyelid as well. Basically, the only difference between the last two drawings are the amount of patience and the time that you allocate for your activity. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. I'll try my best to answer. Like and subscribe to my channel, and find me on Instagram at Haze. Bye!